Well, Natalie, thank you for joining us today at Salary Finance. We're very blessed to have amazing clients, of which Defra is one, but also amazing clients who have amazing kind of team members like yourself who really care for their kind of broader teams and do amazing things for them. And you have really kind of stood out for us over the kind of 7 years now that we've been working together. And so I just want to kind of really start about, you're very passionate about financial well-being. Would love to kind of learn a little bit around kind of just where that passion kind of comes from.
So I've always had finance in the back of my mind. My dad, financial analyst, my mum worked in debt collection. So finances were always a big thing. But in 2014, I left a domestic violent relationship with £6.50 and a 13-year-old. And I was working in a reward role and just starting to look at the benefit side of reward. And that September, so I left in the April. In the September, I went to Employee Benefits Live, and there was a big stand right at the front of it talking about financial well-being. And I was looking at all the different things that were there and just thinking, wow, if I had had even a quarter of what was there, it would have made my life a little bit easier, because I would have known where to go. Simple things like I didn't have a fridge freezer when we finally found somewhere to live. We were homeless for like 3 weeks. I didn't have a fridge freezer, so it was April, luckily, and it was cold April, so we had the milk outside the back door. But there are benefits where you can get your employer to give you £1,000 worth of Currys vouchers and pay them back interest-free. So I started thinking about it, I guess, and that's where it came from. I kind of didn't want any of Defra's employees to ever be in that place where they just didn't know where to go, for whatever it was, whether it was that he needed support and help with getting extra money, whether, it's just as dangerous if you've got a load of money, of how to look after it responsibly and save and put it away. So that's really where it came from, and then that's just driven me all the way through. I'm all good now. Luke's left home, he's 24. I think one of your colleagues was just saying, did you celebrate him being off the payroll? Makes a huge difference. And he really, and for me, I've got a lovely home. I live in affordable housing. So I got a brand new build home 5 years ago now, which still seems like a long time, after living in some not very nice places, so I've got a 75-inch television on my wall now, and when we first left, I think my TV was about this big, and when you've got a 13-year-old, they're always arguing about who wants to watch what. So I've got furniture, I've got everything I need now. So everything we've done at Defra was built on financial well-being. And as you know from my story, we started that. It was a very slow process, because getting things like that into government are a lot more tricky.
Absolutely. So your story is an absolutely amazing one. We have just so much kind of admiration for it. And so that's you personally. And then within, kind of Defra, this is obviously something you've kind of championed, kind of, personally, we've made a lot of progress. And just, what would you say kind of Defra's commitment is? What's the kind of Defra strategy around kind of financial well-being?
So I think that still was driven by me back in the day. We're very lucky that Stuart Young in Government People Group was approached by the What Work study back in 2015-16. And they were looking for a government department to sponsor it. And Stuart knew my passion for it. So we became the only public sector civil service employer part of that study. So we're really lucky, because we had IES, IFS, Money Advice Service and CIPD funding that helped us then go out to our employees, and it was the basis of everything else we built in Defra. So before we really had any benefits, we went out, we did a survey. There were like 70 questions on that survey. And the interesting thing is we launched it in the summer, so it was August, which is dead, everybody's on holiday. And we were in a place where we thought we'll do a soft launch, we won't ask people to fill it in, we'll just get them. Well, we had a response rate of nearly 15%, which is really high for surveys. And after they'd answered 80 odd questions, at the bottom, the last question was, can you provide us with your email address if you'd like to talk more? 25% of those people said, here's my email address, come and talk to me. And when we looked at the numbers, we then had some certain things to do under the study, put different things in. We did a couple of road shows around the benefits we did have. 75% of those people that were surveyed said, it's your responsibility, Defra, to provide us with financial education, help us with our financial well-being. And the interesting thing is we've run that survey many times since, and it still comes out the same, you know. And I think that is what drove it with Defra. One, we were part of a study, so that really helped us get the initial piece in. And the financial well-being, when we launched it, I think we had like 13% after a couple of weeks, and it was 11% when we launched, which again, good numbers, especially in civil service. So I guess Defra's commitment is that their employees have championed it all along and said, this is what we expect you to do for us. And luckily, the Defra leadership listened to that, and we're able to go, you told us, we listened, here it is, you know?
That's great, that's great. And we know you're obviously very kind of passionate and knowledgeable, and it's great that Defra, you know, like you say, are kind of very data-led in this. But I think what we find is in every sector you need a pioneer, and so, you know, today, you know, across Salary Finance, if it's retail, you know, we work for 8 of the largest 10. But we were very fortunate with Dunelm as an example, who are our first retailer, and that provided the data in the NHS. It took us a long time to win our first NHS client, but now we have 1 in 3. And so I guess every sector needs a kind of a pioneer. And in central government, I guess yourself and Defra have been kind of very much that. And so with yourselves, we launched education to start with, then we launched our kind of savings and borrow product kind of thereafter. You know, how would you say the product launches have gone? How has it kind of resonated? What's the impact been?
I think the education piece was unbelievable. And then what we did was, over the last 7 years, everything we've then put in, we talk about the so what. So we didn't say to people, here's 4% at Tesco's. We said to people, how would you like 3 weeks free food shopping? And the big thing that came out of all our surveys was people wanted to put more money in their pockets. So pay restraint, 12 years. And we've done that. So what I think has really nailed it for Defra, I mean, we are being watched by all of civil service. And I know there are a lot more of them now that have the education piece in, because obviously we had COVID, and then we had Ukraine, and then we had the energy crisis. So they're all kind of jumping on our coattails, which is great. But I think the key to it was that when we launched the education piece, we talk a lot, me and your guys, V, and others, about learnt behaviour, you know, and I think once you've got that learnt behaviour nailed, then the rest comes easy, you know. And so we started with £824,000 a year being spent through our discount platform. Within 6 months of focusing on it, changing the way we did it, we were up to £750 a month. A month, not a year, that's amazing, right? Yeah. And then we kept it there, and it was a solid, just kept there, which shows that learnt behaviour. So there were lots of twists and turns to get the products over the line. You know, many times we started going up the mountain, got stuck, and had to come back down again. And you guys have been extremely patient with that, which was really important for us, because everything in government can take a long time sometimes, especially if it's new. And we launched a pilot earlier this year, and the feedback's been exceptional. You know, it's helped. It's absolutely saved me money. You know, I now have less outgoings, all those things you want to hear, you know, and been a really good uptake, I think, given that we've done a very small part of Defra Group. There's only, I think, 6,500 employees out of our 37 that are doing the pilot. The interesting thing is those that were cautious, the bigger organisations, are all suddenly their employees, again, that employee voice saying, well, why haven't we got it? And so I don't think it will be a 6-month pilot. I think it'll be after 3 months, the other organisations will all be saying, well, we want in on that. I think what that then will lead you guys to is have a really good case study model with Defra about the right way to do it. You know, we could have just thrown the products in, but I'm very confident that people are going to use them responsibly, and it will actually change people's lives, which makes me really, really happy. So
definitely, you know, we put a lot of emphasis on our kind of Trustpilot score and our kind of Trustpilot reviews, just because I guess it's people very authentic. Like, you know, you can say whatever you want, and you know, we have over 17,000 reviews. You know, 4.9 out of 5, which we like, but you know, just the stories people kind of share are just amazing. And so yeah, I think, you know, you should be very proud. You know, like I say, we're very kind of grateful to kind of Defra as well, and so it is like an amazing place in terms of where we are today. If we look at the kind of future, and so if you look at other central government departments now, and so I guess they have the benefit of Defra going first and the data. And like you say, it has been a 7-year journey, which we've kind of taken one step at a time. But now in many ways, they can kind of fast track that journey. And so if you were in another central government department or advising another central department, I guess, what would your advice be to them? And how should they look at it?
I think the same as I say about every benefit, okay? You have to ask your people what they want. Now, 90% of people are going to say no to wanting more money. But I think there is a real tendency in wider private sector to just put all these benefits in and not actually think about whether they are a square peg going in a square hole, or whether they're a square peg going in a round hole. And you can have the best benefits in the world, but if you don't understand what your workforce needs, they're not going to use them, you know. So I think my advice to any government department or private sector is to think about what is important to your employees. That's what we did at Defra, and that was where the magic was, because everything we tied it back to. We had campaigns called Cutting Costs, Making Your Money Go Further. We had employees talking about how things had really helped them, you know, and what we will do with the pilot guys, because we're doing a survey that you guys haven't done before. And it's coming back to us in Defra, and we're going to use that already. Out of the loans we've had, you know, over half have given their email addresses again, and we'll use their testimonials, one, to make sure that they can help others and show what a difference it made. But I think, two, it'll be really good working with yourselves to say, well, they found this bit easy, but this bit they struggled with, and maybe we can help some continuous improvement with the products as well.
Absolutely, because I think we always say is financial wellness isn't, it's not like a binary. It's, you're not there one day and you're there. And I guess also the world changes and, expected things happen, unexpected things happen. And I guess what people need and generations
and you
and
grow,
cultures.
When I joined Defra 16 years ago, I didn't even think about a pension.
Exactly. Yeah,
I'm 10 years from state retirement age now, so everything's about my pension, So I think, and there was that whole thing, wasn't there, during the pandemic, where the prosperers, who were the company directors, didn't get furlough for their dividends. So they were suddenly strugglers, and the strugglers were in a worse position, if you like, possibly, because they had all this money that they weren't spending and they didn't know what to do with it.
Absolutely.
How many people went out and bought a hot tub in the pandemic and then sold it the following year, So I think, as you said, it's not something you can stop. You have to continually look at it and make sure that every sector of your workforce, whether that is your lowest paid, your highest paid, people on maternity leave, people getting ready for retirement, has something. And I think that's something that the Learn platform really helps with, because it's really easy. And I love the way that the Learn platform is like written, video, blog. So you get to get it in the context, that you want it in,
Definitely. And then final question. So if you kind of look at where things are today and maybe 2 or 3 years out, what do you think the kind of, Defra priorities around kind of employee benefits and kind of financial wellness is?
I think Defra would struggle not to be continually improving it now, because we've got a 95% active user rate on our platform, which is, I believe, quite incredible. And therefore people they really see it as an integral part of their offer. And I think for Defra, they will still want to continue that, because the noise, if they don't, we're at a place now that when I started this journey, I had no budget and I would never have got a budget. We're now back in a place where when I need a budget, I can justify the return on investment for Defra, even though we don't pay a huge amount. It's not a huge budget. But, and I think it's that. And for me, it's about Defra sharing that experience and making sure that other departments who are cautious can use Defra as a case study.
Absolutely. Well, Natalie, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for being an absolute pioneer in this sector. And also, thank you for all of the people that now have helped because of the work you lead on. So
thank you. So and, right back at you, really, because without your patience in the last 7 years and your understanding of the slow steps that it can take in government, we probably wouldn't be sat here now, Sesh. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.